Hi, welcome back to my channel. So I'm filming indoors today because this past week we had a unforecasted and unseasonable and kind of unwelcome snowfall. So I went outside, even though it didn't actually get like that cold, I just like didn't want to risk, especially the aeoniums and some of the other ones that are like maybe a little more precious to me and a little more tender. I didn't want to risk them. So I basically just went out and cut everything out down to the base and then brought it indoors, put it on trays, and I've had it set up over here in our guest room under grow lights and with a fan, both of which are important just to keep them alive. And basically what I wanted to do was let the cuts all callus over. And unlike other plants where you want to keep the roots kind of as moist as possible when you're propagating them, with succulents, they can actually bleed out and like lose all of their moisture and everything that they have stored in their leaves. So what you want it to do is actually seal itself, and then you can stick it into soil and then it will root, and then you can start watering it once there are roots. So I basically went outside, cut everything off at the base, and here we are now, like 5 days later. Everything seems to have calloused pretty well. So I have a few seed trays prepared, or like, you know, not seed trays, but seed trays. And I set them up with a mix that I made specifically for the succulents. It's 1/3 sand, 1/3 pumice, and 1/3 just like regular indoor potting mix. I wanted something that was super gritty, super well draining, so that nothing like rots over winter. We have pretty wet winters, so even indoors with the heating on, the humidity tends to be at about 50%, which is great for the indoor plants, but the succulents like it a little bit drier, and the fan helps with that as well. So the only difference between these trays is these ones are bigger, so I'll use them for like the bigger cuttings that need a little bit more room. I can use these ones for small cuttings, but the main thing I was thinking of using them for today is leaf cuttings. So most of these succulents, kind of outside of the aeoniums, you can actually propagate from leaf, and especially with the jelly beans and the burrows, which I'll show you up close in a little bit. Those ones they just like shed leaves as you use them or like manipulate them. So it's great to have space to just like set the leaves out on top of the soil, and then they will eventually become new plants. So they're amazing. So for these ones, I actually did the bottom half is the mix that I just said, the like succulent mix, and the top half is just straight pumice. The reason for that is I wanted to save a step. So normally what I would do is like let them grow roots and like a new like little baby plant, and then put them somewhere else where they can have like a little bit more goodness instead of just like pumice. But in order to save that transplanting, I thought that if the top half was just pumice, that's what they'll root into. They won't need a lot of nutrients. It'll encourage them to kind of have slightly bushier roots. And then once they reach down to the good soil, hopefully the plant's big enough where it's like it does need a little more nutrition as well. Anyway, we'll see how that goes, but these plants are so forgiving that I'm not really worried about it. And then I also have a few kind of more like specimen-y looking plants, like this one here. And I also prepared a tray that I didn't have space for. So I prepared this tray here, which just has like ceramic pots. And because some of the cuttings I think will be too heavy to put in the little plastic ones, or they'll need more room. So yeah, so the other tools that I have for today are a couple different sized chopsticks and a bamboo skewer. These are great for just like poking like little holes for the stems to go into. The soil is a little bit moist because I had to rinse the pumice before I used it. Normally I would say just use completely dry soil. But I think it will be fine. Like the soil mix was pretty dry, so I think it will be okay. All right, so I thought I would start with some of the bigger specimens because I thought it would be good to kind of get them out of the way, and then I'll have more room for the little ones. So any leaves like these that are like a little bit wrinkled or just like, you know, kind of imperfect, I might just take off and throw out. So that will be my pile on the floor. And then I'll also take off just a couple, a couple of each one of each succulent. that I can propagate from leaf cuttings. So for leaf cuttings, you want to just gently pick the leaves off because the new succulents will grow from like right at the tip here. And if you get a little bit of the stem as well, I think that actually increases the chances of it being a successful prop. So try and do that. So I just did 4 of those. And then basically I'm going to position this one and just like stick it right in. But I'm just going to top dress it with a little bit of pumice first. And this will just ensure that like the base of the succulent always has like a little bit of airflow going to it. Just making a little bit of a hole. And that's it. So I'm not going to do anything to that guy. Just like leave it alone. And once it's rooted, and I'll know it's rooted because it will be a lot less wobbly. I'm not going to move it now because I don't want to loosen it up. But I don't know, in like a couple weeks or so, I'll check. And if it feels a little bit firm, I might start watering it then. But it's better to do it like kind of too late. I'd rather it use up some of its leaves and kind of make its own energy than risk like rotting it. Okay, so that's the first tray ready. They already look amazing. So I only chose one of each, even if I had like a couple of good ones, just because I figured that if I end up displaying any of them over winter, which I probably will, it will likely be kind of the biggest or the best of each one. So now that these ones are all ready, I have all the leaves or all the leaves. um, and basically with these ones, what you want to do is just lie them right across the top. You don't want to stick them in because they actually want light. Um, and then, I don't know, I feel like I've seen kind of conflicting information online as to how exactly to care for them. What I figured was that, like in nature, if one of these falls off the parent plant, it's going to fall off pretty close to where the parent plant is. And maybe it's only the ones that are, like a little bit shaded or something that actually survive. Like they probably don't all survive. But anyway, I figured that I would want to replicate the conditions that their parents are in. So I'm just going to have them right out here where the parents are with the same amount of light as and everything. And when I've done this in the past, like I've even had, like when I've done time lapses and stuff, like I'll have the lights on 24/7. And even so, like they always root and they'll always grow babies. So anyway, I think they're pretty forgiving. All right. So it went a little differently than I was expecting. I guess I should have maybe counted how many I would have, and I didn't. So I'm actually out of room. I have a few pots left over. So what I was thinking of doing was maybe putting like the dangly guys in this one, and then I have some bigger jade cuttings. So these ones are kind of like this size.
So I was thinking of maybe trying to put like 5 of them in here, and I might just do that now actually. I'd love to fit one more in, but I think that that might be the best that I can get it. So for these ones, it's only sand and pumice mix. I didn't put any soil, and the reason was because I wanted it to be really heavy so that it would be able to hold them up. I'm going to have them here somewhere that they won't be bumped, and hopefully. And then it'll just be a little bit safer. Once they root, they'll be able to hold themselves up, and that will be fine. And I think that I'm going to plant the other 3 together. 2 or 3. Oh, it's just 2. So we'll see. I might plant these ones somewhere else. These will be fine for another week or more out of a pot as long as they're in these conditions where they can still get light. And then what I decided to do with the leaves is I have this tray that just had pumice in it. And I think what I'll do is I'll just lay out all the leaves on there and then they can just do their thing. So here's the tray with all of the leaves. And I kind of just put everything here together. Some things will root faster than others, but the good thing about planting in pumice is that it's really easy to just like take out whatever has rooted and then I can plant it on into something else. The San Pedro and this one jade I didn't actually get around to cutting or to planting. I was completely out of containers because I have used all of them. I love how this looks though. Everything is like so full. So I did manage to put one more jade in this pot. So now there's 5 of them here. And it's kind of the shape that I wanted it to be. I've been working on it as kind of a bonsai. I want it to look like a little forest with like one canopy instead of like 5 different canopies, if that makes sense. And then the cuttings that are behind are actually all the tips that I had cut off when I was pruning it earlier in the spring. The one aloe and in here. And then these are all the biggest of the cuttings, but non like specimen big cuttings. And then over here is kind of the next size down. And I ended up with so many of them, which is really exciting because I have so many plans for next spring. These are the more specimen ones, so I'll leave these in here for the next couple weeks until they've rooted, just because I can have them in like perfect conditions over here. And then I'll move them out. I have this like south facing window that gets lots of light, and I normally supplement it with some grow lights too, so yeah, they should be happy there. And with this guy here, I ended up just lying them across because I'll see if I can actually take one out. They had I don't want to mess it up. Hold on. There was one that was kind of near the top. Anyway, you can kind of see that they had these like roots. I don't know if they're visible. See those little bumps under the stem? Anyway, those are like the start of roots. So I just lay them down and I figured that way I can get it vining as soon as possible. And I might take that out and display it as well. This guy I didn't propagate yet. I think this is some kind of a mammillaria. It bloomed recently. It has these like kind of very pale pink, whitish, kind of creamy flowers. And they only last for a couple days, but they're really cute. And it looks like he has a bunch of babies on his back. So I was thinking of maybe slicing there, drying it out, and then kind of those ones will fill in the pot. So we'll see when I'm feeling ambitious. But I've had this one, I don't know, about 5 years, and it was about that size when I got it. So it's a pretty slow grower. Well, thanks so much for joining me for today. I really enjoyed myself, and I love how this looks, even just like as a nursery space. And I'll keep you posted if anything dramatic or exciting happens. And I'll post some updates of the leaves as well as they start to kind of sprout their roots. It's pretty exciting to watch.
And yeah, hope you enjoyed coming along today, and I'll catch you next time.